welcome to On Cue at Joffrey Ballet. My name is Adam Blythe. I'm one of the rehearsal directors here, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Joffrey Artist Derrick Agnoletti. Hi, Derrick.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great.
So, as you know, we've been doing these On Cue interviews throughout the summer to try and give people a little more information about some of the Joffrey artists. You know, they see you on stage all the time, and at various functions you get to meet them, but just to have a little opportunity to chat a little bit about your background and how you came to be here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from? I know growing up with three other brothers and that story and water polo, lots of little elements. So if you want to take it away and tell us about it.
So I originally was born and raised in California, San Jose, California. Not exactly the city of San Jose, quite south, Almaden Valley. And I have three brothers, two older brothers, one younger brother. I come from an Italian-American family, both sides. My mother is Sicilian descent. My father is Abruzzi, Toscano descent. So that's already hot-blooded people.
Uh-huh.
My childhood was spent a lot outdoors. My parents built a home in the hills for us, essentially. I mean, we were on tons of acreage, around horses, dogs, cats, birds. We were always outside. I kind of learned to drive on a tractor because my dad would till the back of the field because they have lots of fires, so he'd keep all the dry grass out.
Okay.
But I think growing up, my brothers and I were playing outside, so I did soccer, I did baseball, and swimming and water polo was what really stuck with me as a kid. So I kind of always was involved in that. I, swam and played water polo through middle school, high school, and even into college. But dance was always there also. So
how did dance come in though? Like such an outdoor sporty family.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, believe it or not, I there's a story to it, but when I really think back to it, my family always is dancing.
Okay.
Like my mom and dad would have music playing through the house all the time, from Earth, Wind and Fire to, Prince, like always funk, R&B, soul music. And they would be dancing in the kitchen, and every family function was always dancing. And I never realized how natural I felt dancing. But even to this day, my brothers and I can take over a dance floor like fools. But
And I've met your parents.
Yeah.
They're the life of the party too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They come and hang out.
And so I think I believe that it was kind of always in me because I had always moved to music. But when I was first starting swim and water polo, I was kind of told that my coordination wasn't so good and that ballet could help. And so I took a ballet class, and I remember walking into a dance studio, and I remember the exact step I saw the older girls in the class before me. I was going to take a beginner, try it out. I think I was wearing sweatpants and socks. I was 8.5.
Beginner's outfit, yeah.
Yeah, no clue. I think I got out of the pool and jogged there or something. And I remember seeing them do rond de jambe, on de don, and seeing all of their bodies and their heads go at the same time, and hearing the pianist play the music with the class. And I remember in that moment, I went home that night and I told my parents, this is what I'm gonna do. They were like, what?
That's crazy.
They're like, okay, we have to do our research and figure out how, do you still want to swim? Do you want to do other stuff? Because I was very involved in school. It's like, yeah, I can do an hour of dance a day. I thought it was an hour of dance a day. It wasn't.
No, definitely not.
So yeah, that's kind of how it began, bounced around. I started at San Jose Cleveland Ballet School in San Jose. Went to program after program, kind of all over, from San Francisco Ballet School to School of American Ballet. I ended up in Paris at the Conservatoire in an exchange program, summers at American Ballet Theater. So I kind of bounced all over the place.
That's great. I kind of love that story though about seeing the girls in the class, because I feel it was a few weeks ago we were coming back to the studio and I messaged you. It's like, it's so nice to see people in a studio and have the pianist playing, and we have amazing musicians playing for us, and it's kind of, it's transforms
Special.
how you feel. Yeah, it's really, really special. But after you had, studied all over, seen a lot of different schools and places, how did you end up coming here to Joffrey? How did that happen, of this company?
So I went to a college that so let's really talk about this.
Uh-oh.
I started as a pre-med, bio-sci. I thought I wanted to
Okay.
do bio-sci. I thought I was gonna go to medical school, take over my dad's dental practice. That's what I thought I was gonna
Wow.
do, or PT school or something like that. And so I got to organic chemistry, and I was like, this is not good. I did well in everything else, but OChem and I were just not friends. I ended up switching to sociology, and at that time, the dance program at UC Irvine was huge. Um, since then, many of those professors have left. I saw a program they did, earlier in the year, where they had Forsyth, Killian, and Balanchine, and I was like, whoa, and they're really good. So I jumped in on that. I ended up becoming a dance major also, I switched into sociology, and I started really training again because at the time I kind of took a hiatus away from
I was
it.
going to say, when you were thinking of a medical future,
Yeah.
had you just put ballet on the back burner
A
or
little
gone
bit. Yeah, I was
totally?
kind of doing it recreationally, thinking like, well, I didn't take the route of the classical
Right.
ballet dancer that joins a company at 18, and I jumped back into it and started really taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so lucky to train with, Forsyth's repetitors, and Donald McHale was one of my mentors. Diane Diefenderfer. It was like being in a company. You would have people come in and work with you for 6 weeks on a piece that you were going to perform, and they really dug into it while you were learning to notate, while
Yeah.
you were learning dance history. So it was this full
And
spectrum.
it's the first-hand knowledge too.
Yeah.
It's like right there.
And then I started, because I was still on the younger side, I went back into summer programs to get I went to ABT twice, and I studied a lot in New York with Willie Berman.
Mm-hmm.
He became kind of my mentor in ballet. And so I kind of got everything back, ended up auditioning for Joffrey at the suggestion of a friend, because they were touring into Cupertino, California. And I remember I took class and on stage at the Flint Center, and I drove up from college, took class with them that morning, sat down, waited for Mr. Arpino to finish reading the paper, and I had the whole ballet staff, which I ended up working with Mark Goldweber, Cami Basden, Adam Skloot, and Charthel Arthur, waiting there. And then Mr. A turned around and he was like, you have great energy. He was like, you look like a Joffrey dancer. And then they told me, you have an apprentice contract. And so I immediately started as an apprentice. I left in like a week and a half, moved to Chicago. Never had gone to Chicago.
Oh my
Didn't know
word.
anything about it, but I knew that the Cubbies were here, and I was happy about that because
Okay.
I'm a huge Cubs
People
fan.
go and watch that at
Yeah,
least.
so long story short, I geographically ended up where my father went to dental school here.
Okay.
And so I kind of ended up in his footprints where he did his schooling and started his professional career. So it was kind of fun to move to Chicago. And 18 years later, I'm still here and love it.
It's amazing. I kind of echo that sentiment of looking like a Joffrey dancer. And it's probably not even looking like a Joffrey dancer. It's a feeling of you've obviously got technique and all of those things that you need to be a professional, but there's a certain energy, a feeling of being a Joffrey dancer, which you have in abundance. Which is why you've had such an incredible career here too, and so many varied roles. When you first arrived, was there a feeling of, I'm just going to try this out and see what it looks like? Did you know much about the company?
I knew its historical context
Yeah.
because we studied a lot about the
Okay.
Joffrey. I had seen them perform. I had seen billboards in San Francisco
Uh-huh.
because it was a Prince ballet. And I remember I thought to myself, ooh, I want to do that.
I'm sure.
And I did get to do it. We did a section from it, and
Happy ending.
I was like,
I'm done now. I can go.
but I didn't know how the company moved, and I learned very quickly how fast they learned rep. When I
Yeah.
first got into the company, I learned they were teaching us Nutcracker, and the newer people with me were also learning it, and the expectation to be able to just jump in and do it full out
Yeah.
with feeling like you're on stage, they never marked anything. And
No.
I was kind of like, this is really intimidating, but it lit a fire under me and
Yeah.
made me
And
go for it.
it's how you kind of make your mark of who you're going to be as an artist.
Yeah.
And it also settles you in quick too. It's like
Yeah.
you just got to get in there and do it as well. When you now spending these years here in most of your career here, all of your professional
Yeah.
career here, is it still super exciting for you to be going from classical rep? Because I know you're still a bunhead too. Like you love the ballet as I do. We're all, you know, the fifths, the tanju, all of those things. Is it still thrilling for you to be pushing for that and doing other modern works, theatrical works? Is
Yeah.
that one of the joys?
Oh yeah. I think everything, I'm a firm believer that the classical class builds the muscle memory for you to be able to morph that into movement because you understand the fine tuning of the body. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm getting to an age now that the classical rep is more difficult for me. Even though it's something that I do on a daily basis, it's much more, it's taxing. I have to plan stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of dancer that when I go on stage, I kind of I let go completely. And sometimes I don't remember what I did, and then I don't want to see the video because I was in the moment.
Which is important too.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what matters.
Yeah.
Where you are at the time.
The abandonment of it is
Yeah.
is you've worked so hard in the studios that it's time to share it.
Yeah.
But the going from one genre to another, I mean, we've done, I could say I've tapped here. I've done barefoot, Paul Taylor. You know, we've done.
I've seen you falling from the sky,
I've fallen.
screaming
I've been in the
slow
sky
motion.
screaming. Yeah, I've danced with hay. Danced with a strobe light that I had to click. That David Parsons caught solo. It's just the, you know, and then Giselle Pezonpas.
Yeah.
You know, Snow Prince, The Jester. I've done the classical short boy roles that are gut-wrenchingly hard.
Yeah. Like stamina.
Yeah, and so it's been, I have to say, like, I hate, it sounds like I'm bragging, but I've had the best career. It's been so fulfilling.
That's not bragging. It's really, it's fantastic you recognize that. It's really a great thing. And I don't know, sometimes when you're dancing, you're so focused on what's coming next as well, of what the next season is or the next program, that you don't really appreciate all of the really good things that have happened that year or the year before. I want to chat because I have that image of you falling, screaming from the table. I mean, that was crazy. Were you petrified for doing that? From so like hovering, hanging from the wire up super high and slow motion falling, screaming all the way down to the stage.
I think that the scariest part for me when we first did it, when Alex told me what happened, it's like you go into, it's the choreography of Alex Ekman's Midsummer Night's Dream, which isn't the story of Shakespeare's Midsummer. It's a tradition in the Swedish culture for the first summer solstice day, the longest day of the year. So they drink schnapps and have a party. And this guy goes into his dream. Well, I'm this character that appears through the whole thing with a camera at the beginning. I would say I was like a tourist. I used it as like I was a tourist through the whole thing. But he becomes kind of a nightmare to him. And the table goes up, and I go up with the table. And I have to be really honest and say, I love thrill. I'll jump out of a plane. I'll go on roller coasters. I surf. I'm not afraid of any of that kind of stuff. But the first time we tried it, the music is terrifying, the sounds of the music.
Yeah.
And as we started to go up, I have to take these bodies that are mannequins and throw them off and scream at the guy down there. And as it went all the way up, there was a moment where I was like, okay, this is really high.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Really scary. Yeah, and then I was just like, just let go. And it was fine the first time, but I was scared. Yeah. I was also trying to focus on holding on because it felt like I was going to swing backwards.
Yeah. Did you ever imagine you'd be doing something like that, though?
No.
And you go from doing the snow scene in Nutcracker, like blue, silvery tights, super ballet, like gorgeous, and then crazy.
No. Yeah, and even the beginning with the company, like I said, it's such a Joffrey thing for us to dance together. The very beginning, the hay dance, like grabbing the hay and us all throwing it around together and looking at each other and the eye contact, it just made the piece such a whole feeling that it was so
I think
fun.
that's kind of an essential part of Joffrey, of that ensemble moment of everyone being together.
Yeah.
Just tapping into, though, what you were talking about regarding the basis of everything, of coming into class every day. And I know that you teach in the academy as well and other places, and you have like such a strong work ethic. How, like, was that instilled in you from such a young age from your parents, or is it just something you learned through dancing of, if I want to be serious about this, this is what it's going to take?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think I come from, I have very hardworking parents. They worked really hard, grandparents that worked really hard. And, you know, it wasn't ever a question if we were going to go to school.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you're going, and there wasn't a choice, and it wasn't in a mean way. It was just, you're going to school, you're going to go do this, you must take the garbage out, this is your job, this is what you have to do. It was a responsibility that I was taught. But I think when I decided to go into ballet, and I told myself as I became a teenager and I was starting to study more, summer programs, I think, made such a difference for me. And I remember learning a little bit more as I got into my teen years, the balancing technique. And I remember wanting to get it right. I remember wanting to do it correctly. And I remember reading Martha Graham's book as a teenager. A teacher gave it to me. And it talks a great deal about the discipline of the dancer. And I think, the discipline, it's an art. It's not a recreational. When you're doing it as a professional, it is an art, and art takes discipline, and you have to fine tune the tool that is your body. And that takes, as an athlete, I know that the training is the most important part when you get into the game, or when you are about to do a race. You build that muscle memory so that you can last through it. And I've always honored that, and I feel like I've always felt like that is so incredibly crucial, to understand that it's a discipline, it's an art, and in order to really honor it, it will always be up here,
Right.
and you'll always be down here. But the feeling like you're gonna get there is just, it's elating. It's like,
Yeah. And how it changes through your career of what you need at a certain time. And you do class every day, but the focus might be different for what's going to be required of you later. And so even though, some people think, how do you do that every day? But you're thinking of it in a different way. And first of all, in what the repertoire is, if you're nursing injuries, if you're just super fatigued, if you've done a show the night before. But it's kind of the morning coffee. It's like the ritual of getting yourself going. Do you find that's something you share a lot with students, of not just about working hard and technique and fixing what's required for ballet, but the mental game of it?
Yes. And the mental game has to be the strongest. And I can't say I do it alone. I have a life coach.
Right.
And I've seen a therapist for, I'm very perfectionist oriented, even at home. Like, I have like everything in its place. But I talk to students about it, and I always tell them, like, oftentimes as dancers, I remember being younger, hearing people say, oh, I didn't like this class, or I didn't like that. And I'm like, that's all ego. You just take the class. You know from a young age that you do tendus. You've done them. It's just all of those steps rearranged. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
And if you think about it like that, and you go into it and you approach it as, how can I do this? Because it's when you allow the ego to take over, you don't think about it. You have to just be about it. And that's how I see it. I don't see it as like, it's a challenge, and it's hard, and you have to rise to the occasion of it. And that's being the artist. That's being Martha Graham said, no, Albert Einstein said, dancers are God's athletes. And that's why, because we can do anything when we're given it, because we understand that codified language. And I think that is the brilliant part of it. I love when I get a challenge in class where the port de bras going and the feet are doing something completely different, because it encourages, your synapses to work in the opposite directions that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah, and coordination is so key to.
And then when you learn hip hop, or you learn tap, or you learn anything else, those skills and those how the brain communicates to the body is just there.
Do you find that rewarding when you're sharing all of this with students? Because I know you do. You teach general classes, but you also work one-to-one with a lot of kids.
Yeah, I try to encourage. I had a lot of tough teachers, a lot of teachers that were not nice.
Right.
And I tried to change the trajectory. and utilize the positivity that dance has brought to me in the professional career. I think we have a very loving company. I think we have a very caring company. I hear stories from friends that I'm just like, oh my God, like I would leave if somebody spoke to me like that.
Because it's really tough, and the criticism can feel hard sometimes, but there is a way, and the criticism is necessary. We're all trying to improve and also deliver what an artist wants, what the choreographer wants, the director. But there's definitely, and I feel it here too, of trying to implement all of that, but in a way that is encouraging and supportive and not detrimental to somebody.
To me, it's about being proactive,
Right.
and not reactive. So like when a student does something, I try to give them a different imagery, or really talk about the body and tell them what muscle they're actually using so they know their tool.
Yeah.
And take it down a notch so that they go back to the basic and then understand it in a different way.
Yeah.
And you can read a student a different way. There are some students that won't react to that would need an imagery. And then there are students that, need the rote understanding of the mechanics behind it and how it works. And so I play with those. But the one thing I try to encourage, I try to bring what my sports life gave to me, and that's the encouragement. I had coaches that encouraged us to get to the finish line. I mean, they had sayings every day that really stuck with me, and I hear it in my head sometimes still now, which is a great feeling.
And it's different for everyone, like you saying, what you might need in a studio on a solo, so you're working on a variation, the support you might need or the corrections will be very different from somebody else. And it's not so much a struggle, it's actually quite interesting to figure out, how can I help them get forward? What's going to make them get to where they need to be? That's different to what you might say to somebody else.
Yeah.
You're like a super fit guy. Tell us how this happens. Like, you are so good at taking care of your body. And I know like fitness is a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
How is it just natural for you? You want to get up and that's
it's
who
fun.
you are.
I think fitness also, that comes from my parents too. My mom and dad my mom she was a runner all the time. She get up. We would be getting up to go to swim practice, and somehow she'd be done already coming home from running.
Yeah, she's had a day.
Yeah, things would be done. Everything would be ready to go. My dad would be doing stuff.
Yeah.
And my dad to this day too, just backflips off the diving board in his 70s. Like they're wild. But
I can picture that.
I think that, they influenced us a lot on like exercise is so important. But I find that I always like another challenge outside of what I'm doing, because it keeps your endorphins going and your brain going. And so I have a kind of a crazy routine that most people would be like, you do what? So pretty much every day I go to Barry's boot camp, try to go 7 days a week, because it's just an hour. But it's a HIIT class, and you run on treads, you sprint, and the incline can change depending on the programming. And then you go on the floor, and while you're tired, you hit heavy weights or light weights or bands, and every day is a different focus on a body part. It's a lot. But the encouragement and the team atmosphere and the community it builds with everybody is just, you can't think negatively during that.
Yeah.
You're all encouraging each other, and you're all trying your hardest, and everybody's level is different. And as intimidating as it was the first time, because I had gone in New York a couple times, and I remember thinking that was really hard. But I have the trainers have become dear friends to me, and really, really, really bright lights in my life that have encouraged me and to continue to dance and to push my body and to not be afraid of where I can go with it. But I remember my first class was with my buddy Joe, who was the one who was like, come take my class at Barry's. And I was like, you want me to die? Like, I was like, you guys make them sprint uphill for like a minute.
It doesn't sound charming.
And I mean, he was like, it's fun, I promise you. And I went, believe it or not, I shouldn't really say this on record, but I went after I had my knee surgery, and I double floored, which means I didn't do the running. And then as the doctor told me you can go back to running and stuff, I started to go back little by little, and I started to see my body composition change just by that 1 hour a day. And I started to feel different in class. My explosion became different. My muscles that I was using and were totally different. And so I got hooked on it. It's also loud music and fun, and people, very sexy.
Well, and yeah, for sure. I can't imagine at that time of the morning doing that, but I'm really happy you do. But it's also, like you said, it opened up this new friendships.
Yeah.
And what I found myself as a dancer, and I remember talking to my friend all the time about it, of like, we're always with the same people, and it's naturally what dancers do. You work together. Invariably, you live together with your best friend or your partner or whatever, and then you're dancing and you hang out together, all of those things. You actually have you have great friendships in the company, kind of one of the central figures of the company here, but you have a huge life outside of ballet, which I imagine must make work and things feel more balanced when times are hard at work. If you're struggling with something, that you have different friendships.
Yeah. I mean, I have a core family group of friends, partly because my family's not here, and they've stemmed from, since 2003, some of them. And as time went on, it was like the family picked up people here and there. And I have it helps me so much. It helps me also when they come to shows, because when they come to shows, I'm like, oh boy, now they get to see what I do, because I very rarely have to talk to them about it, because it's kind of where I go to be. I really go to work, and when I get to express myself in dance, by the end of the day, I feel good. I feel like when I go out and have a drink with them, I listen to their days and whatnot. Or if I have an injury, they're always there for me, and we talk about everything. We all come from different backgrounds, and it's a core group of about 8 guys actually, which is interesting, because none of them have any affiliation with dancing.
Yeah.
And they're just the absolute best. Like I make them go to Barry's with me.
and we hear them in the audience too, like very supportive of the show. So.
Yeah, so it's great. We spend holidays together, and it makes life here as not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Because it is. I always have this saying in my head, like, it's just dance. We're not curing cancer or COVID. Like
topical.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, the thing is, you dance because it's really who you are, and it's essential, and it feels like everything. But by having an outside circle doesn't mean it's any less. It just changes.
It also makes me love the people here more.
Yeah.
Because I don't spend every moment with them, and when I do get to be with them and we have a company function, I'm the one that will get silly and wild, and
I've seen it.
Encourage the rest of them to do the same.
I've seen it. Well, I think we're about to wrap up, Derrick. Thank you so much for chatting with me. But we have a couple questions for you. Some rapid fire.
Okay.
Quick as you can. 21 and you're done.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Good. Tea or coffee in the morning?
Coffee.
Favorite motivational pump-up song?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard.
5,
Van
4.
Halen, Right Now.
Okay. Window seat or aisle?
Window seat.
Interesting. You can have dinner with a famous person, dead or alive. Who?
Albert Einstein.
Cool. That sounds good. City break, lazy beach days.
Lazy beach days.
Kenny Chesney or Zach Brown band?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
That's like my favorite question.
Okay, Kenny Chesney.
Favorite TV show?
Downton Abbey.
Excellent. Best restaurant in Chicago?
Bavette's.
Favorite Halloween costume?
I was a squid one year.
Oh my word. Are you a morning or night person?
Both.
Both. French wine or Californian wine?
Oh my gosh. French wine.
That will be the correct answer.
Yeah.
Summer in the playpen or summer in the Bahamas?
Summer in the playpen.
Do you have what's your biggest phobia?
Spiders.
Yikes. A go-to karaoke song?
Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer.
Red line or blue line? CTA.
Blue line.
Yay. New York or LA?
New York.
What's for dinner tonight?
I made soup, so it's in a crock pot. It's chicken soup. I made a chicken
Great.
soup.
What item, personal item, can you not leave the house without?
My tennis shoes.
Cool. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Favorite holiday season?
Christmas.
And final question, the French accent or the English accent?
Oh,
I kind of trapped you there.
the French accent.
Oh, that's also the correct answer, I believe. That's it, 21 and done. Derrick, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me today.
Of
Thank you for
course.
joining us for On Cue, and we will see you next time. Thanks.